All right, so hi everyone, and welcome to Mastering More4apps, Data Cleansing Essentials with the EBS Toolbox. So I'm Stephanie, and I'll be moderating today's webinar. So since this is a quick fire sort of webinar, I just want to go over a few things as fast as possible before handing it over to our host, Rachana. So everyone will receive today's recording by the end of the week. Keep an eye out for that. It could be Friday, tomorrow, just keep an eye out for the next couple days. And then after Rachana presents, we will begin our Q&A portion. So during the session, feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box down below or in the chat. We will only answer them during the Q&A part just to allow everyone to hear the entirety of the presentation and to hop off at the end if needed. So the Q&A part will last about like 15 minutes or so, and we will do our best to answer as many questions as possible. If it's still going well, we'll possibly extend it, but we'll do our best. Tomorrow, if you are interested, we do have a session on our ERP Cloud Toolboxes finance module. Same time, same place, so feel free to register for that on our website if you're interested. So, and now a little bit about our host today. So, Rachana has been in the Oracle ethos for over 20 years. She has extensive experience as a consultant implementing, upgrading, and supporting Oracle applications, ranging from Oracle 11i to cloud and spanning a breadth of modules across supply chain, procurement, inventory, and manufacturing. She is currently a board member in multiple OATUG special interest groups like AR and order management and is a regular speaker and writer on the topic of supply chains. So let's get to what we are here for today. So Rachana, feel free to take it away.
Thank you, Stephanie. And hello, everyone. Welcome to this series of webinars that we've been doing. Thank you for attending and making time to view this. So as Stephanie mentioned, I've been with More4apps for about 9+ years. And prior to that, I've had extensive experience in the consulting space, implementing, upgrading Oracle EBS. So we will dive into some of the tips and tricks. Many of you are aware and familiar with our EBS Toolbox, our More4apps wizards. So let's try to get more out of it and try to use it at a deeper layer of efficiency. So let's dive in. I'm going to take over the screen share, Stephanie, and bring up some of our master data wizards. So that's what we are going to talk about today. Master data maintenance, and more in the context of how to make the data clean, squeaky clean before, during upgrade, how to get the best out of your master data maintenance. Okay, so I've started sharing my screen. I'm in the supplier wizard. So few of our master data tools are suppliers, customers, items, employees. All of these master data areas are catered by our tools, various tools from different modules. Besides that, on the process manufacturing side, we have OPM loaders and a few others. So you can always look up our brochure to find the master data suite of products that we have. So let's go into Supplier Wizard. As you all know, most of our wizards are pretty similar and intuitive and consistent across different areas. So what I talk through in this is more or less going to apply to the others as well when it comes to, maintaining, deduplicating, and a few other tips that I'm going to give you today. Okay, so I'm already logged into the supplier wizard here. So let's talk about master data. What are the challenges and how to get around some of those? So at the point of migrating or going into a different system, one of the first things you want to do is make sure the holes in your master data, any gaps, any missing information is filled out, any duplicates are removed as much as possible, clean it up in the source system. So a few things you can do on our master data wizards, which I'm going to demonstrate using suppliers. One is to obviously find, let's say, one of our customers is actually going through the process of cleaning up and making sure all the tax information is plugged in into the supplier vendor information. There are many places where it's not the taxpayer ID is not available or not logged in there or not recorded. And some of the other flags, reportable, federal, all these are not completely consistent across everything. So that's one of the first things they're doing, and they're utilizing Supplier Wizard for that. So let's see how that can be done, how you can find missing holes of information within your supplier master. Okay, so I'm already logged in. I'm going in here. into the download via form. All of our wizards have a form and sheet option to download. Within the form, it gives you a lot of handy little parameters to search by. Okay, so these are the parameters which will help you get to your target data and find any missing information. Okay, so here's the vendor type. Let's say I'm going after all vendors and I'm looking for only active ones. Okay, so I'm going to uncheck this one. There is a little flag here, include inactive. So I'm going to uncheck that so that I only get vendor types which are active. This is a good set that is going to migrate into my new system. And then I just search blindly. I am after all the vendors where my tax information is missing. And you'll see how I'm incorporating that as a filter. Okay, so you can utilize not just the download filters as I'm doing here to get rid of inactive. You can utilize Excel filters on top of this. Okay, so here's my list of suppliers. I'm going to just get hold of all of these and bring them down here. Okay, and now the way I have configured this layout, that lends itself to a large extent to give me a very quick, nice, clean report where I can spot any missing information. So notice that these are all nice and compactly presented, and that is because I've tailored this layout. As you all might know, you can configure your layouts, remove any excessive columns, and make this an entirely customized, personalized report for yourself. So in here, you'll notice I don't have site information. I don't have any child level information. I just have the header. And in particular, I have all these federal reporting, the tax related fields. So this makes it really easy for me to spot any missing holes here wherever there is no information. In addition, as I said, you can do a filter, a simple Excel filter on top of this. So very simple, you go to A9, Control Shift End. We'll highlight the entire data set, put on the filters. You can just go into regular Excel, turn on the filters, and now I can look for exactly the ones that are missing taxpayer ID. Okay, so I'll just unselect all, pick up the blanks, and these are the ones that are missing, 161 of 167. Now, some of them are okay with not having a tax reporting ID, but the ones that are reportable federal, they need to have. So let me find out which are the ones which are missing despite being reportable federal. So this way you can do a composite kind of a search. And now this is my data set that I want to clean up before migrating. Okay, and then I'm just this is going to be just fictitious numbers, but yeah, you'll have actual numbers to plug in here and update those. Okay, I meant that to increment, but looks like that doesn't do that. And this is all going to go through the supplier wizard, takes it all through the Oracle API. So if anything's missing or it's a duplicate or any sort of thing like that, it's going to flag that because it is going through the API. So let's just do a couple of them. It doesn't look like I'm able to increment it. Okay, so here we go with that. And then as you all know, we can put an update on all of these, or we can use the default row. It's got hidden in my filter, but yeah, you can bring it back and I can update all of these, okay? Or a few of these, highlight and update, okay? So as you all know, I've talked about it in previous webinars, but yeah, you can put a default value where everything is going to be consistent, like this action, if it's going to be consistent, row number 10 acts like a default value. You can just put update once there and it sticks to every row that you're uploading. Okay, so let's go ahead, upload this to get through this. But basically, this is how you can find missing data, make sure it's all clean. This really will lend a huge amount of leverage when you go to your new system during your upgrade and afterwards, because it makes the whole data a lot more reliable. Your reports are a lot more reliable. Your analytics that you build on it, projections these days, it's the foundation of AI. If you're implementing those, it has to have, it entirely relies on clean data. That's the fundamental of making AI more effective. Okay. Many of them we have seen even utilize some of the Copilot or analyze data kind of tools within here. I've seen even that happening nowadays. And yeah, it's all up to your imagination what you can do with the data here. Let me remove the filters here, and you'll see that these are all updated. So I've seen people go in here, have a copilot, or even go into the analyze data feature and do a lot of other, filtration and analysis of these, or even updates on these. Okay, so all of those new Excel features are coming in, which you can apply to all of these. Okay, so that's one scenario. Another issue when you're migrating is deduplication. So how can we get past that? So let me just navigate over to the bottom. I think this set is good for finding duplicates on the supplier name. I don't have addresses, so I'll go to that. But just to catch any duplicate namings. Okay, so let's say I know there is a Dell and I want to catch anything that is uppercase, lowercase, incorporated. So there are multiple ways to do that. Okay, so let me go to the form first. Download via form. Okay, so within here, let me take this off. And I want to find duplicates who are Dell Incorporated, Inc., Inc. Dot, all of those. So I'm going to say ignore the case. Some of them are uppercase, some are lowercase. So I'll say ignore case. I can include inactive in this case now, and then I can search. So this will give me anything starting with that. Okay, so here it's pretty clean actually. Each one seems to be unique, but this is one way to find any duplicates. Another way, you can even do it on the sheet. So there could be multiple you're looking for. Okay, so when you're taking this information over, let's say I have a lot of demo percentage, I can do that. I can highlight all of these. I can do an IBM, highlight all of these and start looking for any similar kind of vendor names. Okay, so percentage acts as a wildcard, and we can find any similar kind of names here. Okay, so those are all the Dells we have. Okay, and then let's do the same with the demo percentage. Okay, so this might be a lot more. So once this is downloaded, if you spot any duplicates, we saw that the Dell didn't really have any potentials, but here maybe there are a lot of duplicates because of, a dot or something, a character at the end. So here we can actually go in and deactivate also. So as soon as you include inactive date supplier at the header level, this is the inactive date on the header level. That's the Oracle field mapped here on this column. The moment you map that, you're able to put an end date to suppliers at the header level. Okay. Okay, it's a little more than I wanted today in the webinar, but yeah, it's plugging away pretty fast. 252. Okay, so I can just go in here. If I spot any duplicates, just go in, put an update, and I can do an update on all of them if I want, or just a few of them, and put even a formula or end of the month or whatever I want to put here. Okay. And then we can start. So it looks like this is a different format, but yeah, I can turn it into a date. All right, so those are deduplication, and we have filling any gaps. Those are two of the common areas where we encounter problems with master data. Once we have it all sorted out, the next thing is, of course, doing the migration itself. Okay, so how can you do it with the aid of our wizards, our master data wizards? Let's look at that. So let's say you have, after doing all of these cleansing, you want to put an extract, pull an extract out of this. Definitely you can go in there and get all the active suppliers, as we saw before, limited by business unit, all the addresses within a business unit. Okay, so those were all the options on the download. You can filter it on the operating unit for the addresses, by types, one time, you can exclude the one time, all of that can be done. So once that is done, you want to import it to the new system. Now, it could be that you are importing from a legacy into EBS. I'll talk about that today. And tomorrow, as Stephanie said, we have a cloud webinar, so we could talk about how things can be imported into the cloud system from an extract. If you're migrating from EBS to cloud, that would be the best pathway. You'll be able to extract on the wizard and then map it to the cloud import tools that we have and import it into the cloud instance. But let's talk about EBS today, and let's assume that you have some external legacy data coming in. So how do we import this? So it's very easy to create a replica of this layout that you're getting from your legacy system. And that's because when we start out, let's say with a large sheet, when you download any of our wizards, you'll always have an example sheet. But as you know, these are not rigid. I'll talk about a few tips that I always give when you're trying to remove columns and reduce the sheet into something you can use. One of the common things we do is, obviously, you can reorder the information in the right sequence and stack up all the unwanted columns to one side and have all the core columns in the middle. That way it can work, but it's better to remove columns. So when you're removing, I often get this question, is this required? It blew up after that. So what do we, how to bring it back and things like that. So whenever you're going from our example sheet or a working sheet to a more trimmed down, we always advise that you should just park away the column names, just slide the label away from row 9. That way you can actually do an upload and make sure that your sheet is still working. Okay, so this is a very common way I do it. And I think many of our users have liked this. So I still have the data when I'm doing updates. It's a working sheet. I want to make sure that this is still working. In future, I just do an update after sliding away some of the labels. If it still works and it's successful, then I go as a second step and remove my columns. Okay. So then as a second step, I can go in and delete these. Only after I see that it is working without them. The moment you slide away the label, this becomes transparent, invisible to the wizard. It assumes that this column doesn't exist. It'll complain if it is wanting this column back, and it's very easy to pull it back now without losing any data underneath. So that's a little, tip to go in baby steps when you're trimming down. So once you've trimmed down, you have reordered columns. Reordering is pretty easy. Grab it from the top, make sure the label is going along, and stick it in anywhere else. Using these two tools, you can definitely go in and tailor your sheet exactly to mirror this layout so that I can do an easy lift and paste from the external system into my wizard here. Okay, as long as I have ordered them the right way, removed anything unwanted, and stacked away anything that is required by Oracle over to the side. For example, the operating unit, an external system couldn't care less about it, so they don't give it in your extracts, but you do care about it, so you put it away on the side, stick in a default for it, stick in some defaults here and there, like our actions, and then you can import this very seamlessly. Okay, and if anything is a duplicate here, I'm assuming the names are all written with formulas to keep it unique. But if anything is non-unique, of course, you can rely on the validations to catch those, or on the Oracle APIs to catch those. Okay, so that is the entire process of cleansing data, importing. Okay, it's all within EBS, obviously. It's two different ends of a migration process, all within EBS. So either you're going out of EBS or bringing into EBS, you can definitely use our tools to make it more efficient. Okay, so let's peek into a little scenario on the customer wizard that I wanted to talk about today, and then another one on the employee wizard. Okay, so here's the customer wizard. I might have to go in as an AR user, unlike the supplier where I was an AP user, a payables manager. Okay, let me just log in and it'll automatically switch over here. Okay, so here's my AR user. So what I'm doing here, pretty similar. Let's say I have to find all the customers who have an address in Texas, and I want to make sure they have tax information just to clean all the master data, just regular maintenance. This could be not necessarily during migration. It could also be useful when you have some regulation coming in, new regulations on your master data. It can always have sweeping changes, especially related to tax or anything regulatory. You might have to touch a large number of records at the same time. So definitely make use of these master data wizards. And what we can do here, I'm going to talk about download using Sheet a little more in this wizard, in this example. So I'm going to look for, it's a composite kind of a query that I'm looking for. Okay, and it could be multiple. I could be looking for Texas as well as, I have a list of states, so I can replicate this and change it from this to, let's say, California or a couple more. So whenever there is a composite or multiple queries, you're better off doing a download via Sheet. Okay, so you can have multiple search parameters here, not just one way, like the form would, where in the form you would have to list one country or one state, but here you can list a whole bunch of customer names or states or even operating units. Okay, so what we are doing here is looking for all active parties, active customers within these states, okay, which are a ship to, because I have to put a tax code on this. And this is also another one of the real life scenarios we had to help out with. So we can stick in these parameters, and then I can go in and download all the addresses. Let's just do one for now. I know this is a small set. Okay, so here's when you hover over this, it actually tells you which are the parameters that it's going to look at as searchable during a download via Sheet. You can plug in any of these, a mix of any of these, a combination, and it'll search through each row, try to match up and bring back data matching a composite of all of these. Okay, so that makes it pretty powerful. You can narrow down on a few search parameters and narrow down on the data set resulting from a combination of those. So sometimes there was a specific tax code they wanted to put on all of these or make it exempt. And this was an easy way. Again, you'll see that this is tailored right down to the very bare minimum that's needed to build this hierarchy from the party and customer account down to the site use level, because this resides at the site use, whether it's a ship to or a bill to. So we are getting only the ship to sites which are in Texas. Bear in mind that these customers might sometimes have hundreds of addresses, but it's going to pare down everything else and just bring us the Texas addresses. So that's pretty powerful if you imagine how many forms you have to go through, or even if it's a report, and how many steps you have to go through to get to those exact addresses in a way that you can just plug in and update. Okay. Chugging away. Since I just logged in, I think and the first query, it is building all the caching information also. Usually once you've done a few actions, a lot of cache data takes over and it's much faster the second time around. On manufacturing, many times on items, routings, bombs, those are also various areas where we have seen use for a lot of cleansing activity. Item end dating, item deduplication, those are other areas. Employees, it's more part of regular maintenance. You have to do a lot of maintenance, salary proposals, performance, all of that. So I'll just touch on a brief scenario on the employee as well. Okay, so here's our match. We got all of these. Okay, and these are all Texas, so we can go in and do an update at the site use level. This is a very focused update. We're just going to make it exempt at this level. So I just take that, okay, just copy it down and then update the entire set. I'm just going to do a small set here because I use this scenario quite often. I don't want to lose all of my Texas addresses, okay? So here you can go and update this. No other updates at any of the other levels. And these could all be really deep down, heavy customers with so many hundreds of sites, but this has become so much easier to just target those specific site addresses, ship tos, bill tos. There might be so many other clutter that you're cleaned out already using the download via Sheet. Okay, so that's it. I think we all know the drill of the upload. It goes through and posts into Oracle. So I'll skip over this. Okay, let's go into the employee wizard. What I'm going to do is pull down. Now another tip here, because this is blocking me, I could actually go in and open up a new session of Excel. Okay, I just have to have my control key down, if I remember it right. Okay, and then I can open a new session of Excel and open another wizard while that is plugging away. Okay, so that's another tip support team often shares, how to open a new session of Excel. You can just browse on the internet how to open a new session of Excel, and it'll tell you the key to hold down. I think it was Control or Shift, one of those. Okay. So here I'm at the employee wizard side now, and I'm going to just talk about how effectively formulas can be used in combination with defaulting. Okay, this is a different instance, I believe, in different area, HR side. So it's asking me for the login again. Okay, so what I'm going to do is look for a specific role or a supervisor, bring down all the employees and do some sort of an update using a formula, just an increment, happy days, and we're incrementing the salary, let's say. All right, so I'm going to go into download via form. So this is regular maintenance. It's not even just a one time. Probably this happens quite frequently in an organization, and it touches a large amount of master data. So how to make it easier. This is again one of our comprehensive search forms, which gives you a lot of levers to clamp down your data. Okay, so you can search by supervisor, that's going through an increment, a position that is going through, a location, payroll, job, grade, any of these, okay? Or just a creation date range, okay? There's plenty of leverage here, and then I can just do a percentage. I'm not searching by employee number. I could, but I don't really need to by name or number, okay? And then I'm just going to do one of the demo project managers. I think it's called Casey Brown. Oh, don't we have it here? Ah, here it is, okay. So here's the supervisor. I'm searching for all the employees with this as a supervisor. If I search, let me see how many hits I get. Let me, since we have only 3 minutes left on this segment before we go into Q&A, I'll just make it short here. All I wanted to do was show how the default row can have formulas and how it cascades down, doing a simple increment of, let's say, 2% on the proposed salary for all of these. Okay, so very simply, it's brought down some employees. I can collect all of them or just a few of them. And let's go over to the salary proposed. There's assignments, job, position, all of that, pretty large. I can trim this down to have it only salary information. I can definitely do that using some of the trimming down tips we used before. But let's go in here and let's say we want to do an increment of 10%, or okay, that's too rosy. Let's just do 2%. So what I typically do is, we know that proposed salary is the name that the wizard understands as the proposed salary. So what I do is I just use this name and pretend this is going to be my real proposed salary. I turn this into old or something, which the wizard doesn't understand, or you can just wipe off the name. As long as it's non-standard, it is completely invisible. And then within here, I can just do an equals 1.05 times the old proposed salary, okay? Once I do that, although it looks 0 here, when it comes down to my set, data set during upload, it's going to reference, because it's a reference formula, it's going to reference this one here and increment by 5%. Let's put an update as a blanket action here and upload these. Okay, let's make sure I don't have any other updates yet. Looks clean on the actions. This is the only update I'm performing, and you'll see that it cascades down with a relative reference to the same row to the old proposed salary on that same employee. So that's a neat way to do an increment, and this works on, okay, I think it is correct is the actual, correct was the actual keyword here, not update. and that our data forms would give you that. So this is going to error out on all the way through. But I can start peeking into the questions as this plugs away. Let me bring up the question window. Do I have access to that?
I have some for you that I can relate to you after you're done.
Sure. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, I'm just going through the motions of correcting this, but yeah, you can start shooting. Yeah.
I think, oh, well, one of them is it's a fun one. Are there any hidden gems or lesser known features users should know about? Wonder, like, more like, what's your top feature that people should know or be aware of?
Um, yeah, I think default row is one of them. Data forms, many of us miss out on data forms when they start going into the instance, when they are not aware of something, the exact name or something, they forget about the data forms. It's a simple double click and it brings up the whole form with lists of values. So that's often missed as well because you feel like this is all bulk maintenance. You forget that it can actually drill down into one single record and give you a very detailed view of it, complete from Oracle drop down lists of values. So we tend to forget that. Okay. Anything? Follow up on that? Please feel free to pop in any follow-up questions if you have on what I answered.
Do we keep asking you more questions or do you want to finish up and then we can get to the Q&A part?
Okay, yes, go ahead. Yeah, you can go ahead.
Another one? Okay.
Yes.
More about I guess the transition part is that have you seen any organizations use more apps for their transition to cloud? Has that been coming up a lot more?
Yes, especially our cloud customers. We have seen a lot of them actually in the throes of going through the upgrade process. And there are a lot of tools out there which are from Oracle and they are pretty deep into it. And it's reached a point of, frustration. And that's when they come over. So we've seen a lot of them using this in the cloud upgrades. And we have a few, actually, we had done a panel a few weeks ago, I think, where we had a very deep down analysis of how it went through and what were their pain areas, how it was handled, and how they used our solutions, the cloud solutions in particular, to go through that upgrade process. So we've seen that, and there is a recording of that webinar as well from the panelists, very esteemed panelists from different customers. Any follow-up to that?
No, not yet. How about that? Can you change the header names on the default sheet?
On the default sheet. Okay, let me just share it back. I think you're talking about the column labels. If that is the case, there is a
Probably,
way to
yeah.
do it. Manage templates. I stopped sharing, but let me just bring it back up. So there are various ways that the wizards can do that if you want. Most often in the flex field and attribute section, sometimes people want to change it from the attribute one to kind of a name that we have on our spreadsheet into something more meaningful. Okay, so multiple ways people can do it. There is usually on the setup, you would find customize fields or something called manage templates, depending on which wizard you are on. And that gives you the ability to stick in a user-friendly name instead of what we see here, like an attribute 30. Doesn't make sense. So you can go in here. In some of our newer wizards, it's called manage templates. That also gives you the option to stick in a different name, change the names on a new sheet. But in the employee wizard, it's pretty simple here. You bring this up, go down to your attributes, and you can give it a different name here, performance grade or whatever you want to do it. Okay, so this becomes your label now on the new sheet. So this is the custom column name, and you accept and create a new sheet that's going to display as the sheet, and it'll understand on that sheet. Okay, it'll understand that it maps to this real column here. But in the absence of that, no, you cannot just go in and change names here and expect it to work the same way. You
Okay,
can't just
cool.
type it. Okay.
Are there any recommendations or limitations to the number of columns and rows to have besides Excel's like max limitations?
Right. It really is Excel is the max limitation. So that's the only constraint theoretically. Other constraints start coming in though. Our wizard doesn't have any, but definitely there are timeout issues. Sometimes you have a 15-minute timeout, and if you're going into 10,000 rows or something, then it starts hitting that timeout. You can request your DBA to increase that. Sometimes it's just the memory space or something that you've allocated. So we've had, sometimes more powerhouse behind that workstation, or do a remote and do it in a separate dedicated workstation if it's going to be 100,000 or something. So yeah, theoretically there's no limit from the wizard, but these other constraints will soon start encountering. So always I've seen people hit that number around 5,000, 8,000, break it down if possible into that kind of a chunk size.
Cool. Another one, what is the benefit of trimming the columns for an upload?
Yes, so when you trim it down, all the columns, it's not going through so many validations, and it gets a lot more efficient. So just, tying it into the previous question, if you're looking at a 10,000 kind of an upload, you don't want it to be, validating something and you're just updating some specific columns here, like the salary. You don't want it to jump through the hoops on each and every record of those 10,000 and try to validate and make sure that, everything is correct, like the position, the location, the organization. So you can remove those columns. Even hiding will still add that grunt work to it. It'll still have to go through validating, and if there is an error in it, it catches, feeds back the error. So it just makes it a lot more efficient on larger loads to actually blow away those columns that you don't need.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we definitely have a Shire group today, so I don't have any more questions, but if you have any more, please add them. Or Rachna, if you want to share the community and see where else they could ask any questions, I think that would be cool too.
Yes, so let me go into a community. You can go it from community.more4apps.com, or a simpler way is if you go in here to your any of the wizards that you're using. When you bring up help, product support, you can, or release notes, it'll take you through the community. Okay, so right within there, you would have noticed there was user instructions also. So your user guide is quite handy, available here, right here. Okay, any problems and any quick questions you have, you can always try to look it up. Or if you go into product support, it brings up the community here. You can type in your quick questions here also. Okay, so let's say I'm just looking for employee wizard help. I can type in the issue. You'll get some hits from all across our knowledge base. Okay, so you have videos, articles, all sorts of results. It can even go into, if somebody is discussing a specific issue, it can even go into discussions and find if anything was happening related to that. Okay, so you can actually type in your issue that, it's giving some error, or it was like this one, HR assignment, or ORA errors, so you can go in there and people might be discussing. If you can even go in and log your cases through here and manage them in one place, one portal. If you you just register and you log in, create your registration and log in. Usually I've seen one key person doing it for the account. You can create your login account, and then you can handle all the cases, streamline the cases. You can see them all at one place, okay, based on your account. So that makes it a lot more streamlined. So this will ask me to log in, but yeah, you can have all of it at one place. It also gives you access to download. Let's say you want to just go and download some new wizard, new tool from our toolbox, either the EBS or the cloud. You can actually go to the downloads page and get hold of a new copy just to try out or something, and we'll quickly jump on it and help you out with it. Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, I don't have any more questions, but if you do, I will be sending out Rachana's email, and you can also add it on the discussion here as well. I just want to thank everyone again for joining us, and we will send out the recording by the end of the week. So please keep an eye out for that. Rachana, do you have any parting words?
No, it's been always a privilege. Thank you, everyone, for always engaging in all our sessions. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed it. Have a good day.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. Have a good one. Bye-bye.